Welcome to the Passion of Entrepreneurship. I'm Ravi Tangri, and every weekday in June, I am bringing you an incredible entrepreneur to share their journey, what drives them, what gets them through the tough spots, and how they move through. And I am absolutely delighted today to have Xena Gusthart. Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
From across the pond are you right in London?
I am. I'm in the heart of London. I'm originally from Scotland, though, but I've been in London for about 11 years now. So I'm a
Oh,
Londoner now.
okay. I used to live in Middlesex when I was a kid.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Zena, now you've been, when people think of entrepreneurs, a lot of times people think of businesses and so on and so forth. But, you've been essentially an independent entrepreneur as an actor and dancer all your life.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate that you can see that actually, that it does take the spirit and the skills of an entrepreneur to work in the creative industries, because you are constantly having to be your own boss and market yourself and direct your own company, which is you, the product, and constantly looking for the next thing. So
Right.
yeah, I think the skills, I think performers and creatives definitely have those entrepreneurial skill sets by
Well, you
default.
have to, because you're constantly generating the next gig is the business that's coming in.
That's it. That's absolutely it. And it's 16 years now I've been doing, well, I started performer for about 10 years, and then the
Hmm.
last 6 years I've moved into being more on the creative side, so the other side of the table, we call it. And uh, again, it's the same thing though. As a creative, you have to have the entrepreneurial spirit, the ideas, the sort of hustle. You have to have the energy, go through all the knockbacks and the no's, and just keep going forward, keep going forward. And it's what I've been trying to teach people actually. It's that spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit is ingrained in our industry.
Yes. Now,
Mm.
how did you decide to go into this? Because, you hear all about, okay, if you want to be an actor, if you want to be a dancer, you're going to be, okay, you're going to be waiting tables, you're going to be doing this. How did you decide this is something you're passionate enough about that you're going to put everything into this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a much protest against a lot of my family, I must say. They were very much not against it, but they weren't exactly championing the idea. So I think I actually grew up with a disabled brother,
Okay.
who's in a wheelchair, and so therefore I experienced what life was like for people who don't have a fully functioning body,
Right.
and that I don't have the same opportunities because of that. So then when I started and I was always physical as a kid, I was always climbing trees and I was always climbing something. And when I saw my cousin do some dance classes, and I says, I want to do that. Went to my first dance class, and I just took to it like a duck to water, basically. And the teacher was like, have you done this before? And I was a really late starter. I started
Yeah.
when I was about 12, which for a girl is, normally start when they're 4, 5. So, and I just took to it. And I think for me, it was, this, this, um, this industry and that potential career path was going to allow me to be super physical, and travel the world and sort of be my own boss. So all those sort of things I connected to sort of in my teenage years. And I remember setting up my first business when I was about 17, and I was
Okay.
hiring out dance teachers, and I wrote this like really bad contract and got all my teachers to sign it, and I'd make like a small commission on every time they went and got paid, and I paid them. And so I've really always been, hustling in that way within the industry. um
Okay.
yeah, and I think I saw the potential to travel lots. I saw the potential to meet lots of amazing people, get paid to do what I found out that I loved to do. And I think the driving force for me to continue 15, 16 years later on is has been the experience of seeing, and living and with my brother growing up has
Yes.
been a real driving force onto why I'm going to keep pushing through to do this, because
So really appreciating the value that you can actually do this.
That's it. And I want to instill that in so many people, because not everyone has had those experiences. Very few people have. Everyone's experience is different, but to really like utilize the youth and the body that you have that works, and to, if you love to do that, just push for it even more, because a lot of people would love to be in that position, but physically they just can't. Their limitations. So that's probably been my biggest driving force, has been my brother. Yeah,
that's very cool, and I really appreciate that. I grew up in a rural area, so this was, you never even considered it. As an adult, I got into social dancing with ballroom and salsa, and it's like, I wish I had done it or had the option when I was a kid.
Yeah. Oh, but and that's great that you did you say that you did have or you didn't have?
I didn't. So I was, as an adult, that I got into. It's like, oh, I wish I had that when I was a kid.
I know, and I was lucky enough to sort of see my cousin do it and get inspired by her. But a lot of people don't have access to that, and it's just I saw the opportunity and I just sort of ran with it, and I used all my pocket money to class and do what I needed to do to be able to get the skills to and do what I love to do. It's just you just gotta do what you gotta do,
You gotta. And it's more even than just that. What you said, that when you were 17, you started booking dance instructors, right?
Oh,
that's pretty entrepreneurial.
Sorry, the signal's a little bit bad, but I think I heard you.
That when you were 17, you said you started booking dance instructors. That's beyond what a lot of dancers are going to be doing. That's pretty entrepreneurial.
I know. I think my dad actually also was an entrepreneur. He, set up his own business. So from a very young age, that's all I really remember him was, going into business with a couple of his partners, and watching him do what he went through. And it's what I knew actually growing up, to be honest. And I just naturally love business. I love connecting people. I like, thinking of new ideas, seeing something come to fruition. I've just always naturally done it. I remember doing a few projects at high school as well. I was leading teams that were doing, making a new business. I was always that person doing something. So I think it's just, I think it's, but I do think those skills can be taught. It's just having the passion behind it, is the fire in the belly is what's going to make you get up when you don't want to get up,
Right. And you've knit that with your passion for the physical and the dance. And
that's it. Yeah.
So what was it? You said it's about 6 years ago or so you made the transition to doing choreography as well, right? To not just dancing. So what was it that made you say, okay, this is the shift that I want to make?
Well, a couple of things. I'd always choreographed. So when I was just my last year of my training, I went to Paul McCartney's school in Liverpool. It's a Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts, it's called.
Okay.
FYI, my dad was more excited about me meeting Paul McCartney when I got my degree than me actually graduating from my degree. So yeah, I got to meet him and shake his hand.
That works.
By that. I've lost my train of thought thinking about Paul McCartney now. Choreography, yeah. So I made a production company and choreographed my own show. I drove the van, I choreographed it, directed it, got the costumes, booked the tour, got the funding, booked accommodation, paid people. I did everything. And
so it's not just choreography. You were the producer, you were the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at it now and I'd be like, never again will I ever do that. But when you're like 21 and a bit silly, you can go, okay, this is doable. I can do it. I can do it all. And so yeah, I did literally everything, and I hired dancers and auditioned them and took them all up and down the UK and did a great successful show. So from that point on, I knew that I loved to organize. Not organize is not the right word because I'm not very organized, but I like to create things and get ideas and work with people and make something come to fruition. And so after I did that, that was for about a year, and I was only 21, you know, and this was a really successful show. So I continued to do the odd choreographing job along the way throughout my career. And then I just got to an age where I was like, I've done what I wanted to do. I've danced on the stages, I've danced on film sets and TV sets and pop artists. And I was like, I've done what I wanted to do, perform. I've traveled, I've met lots of wonderful people. So I've gotten what I wanted out of the career, and knew that I loved to lead a room. I like to create things, build ideas. And so that was quite a natural progression into choreography. And it sort of snowballed quite quickly, because a lot of people knew me as a choreographer as well, because of going through my career still choreographing. And I just sort of, and there was a really touch and go couple of months when I had to have no work, because I was rebranding myself as a choreographer, and I had to just say no to a lot of jobs because they were performing jobs. So there was about 6 months when I didn't work, and it was purely because I was rebranding, getting the right signaling out there to people so that they would know what I was about. You know, I wasn't a performer anymore, I was a choreographer.
You know, I find that really interesting, because a lot of people in business I know who rebrand and who switch have difficulty saying no to the old work.
Oh, it was hard. It's very, very hard.
It is.
It was very hard. Yeah.
But the fact that you have that discipline.
Well, I understand marketing, I understand branding, I understand, you know, putting the right signals out to get the right results, really. And I was just so definite about it. You know, it was probably the most definite I've been about anything actually in a really long time. It's just like, that's how I want to be seen. That's what I want to be doing. That's the level I want to be working at. That's the kind of money I want to make. 'Cause you make way more money as a creative than you do as a performer.
Yeah.
And I just knew all those things were the right things for me. It's like I always should have been in that role almost. But with age comes experience, and, you know, 15 years later, you can kind of go, yeah, okay, we trust her to lead a room, you know. So when I was 21, or like 24, 25, those ages, I had to really prove that I could, you know, choreograph and lead a team. I've always been able to do it, but with age comes the sort of people respect it a bit more. So that's been quite an interesting thing to see happen.
So it's what I'm hearing is a very clear pattern already with you, that when you were younger, you know, you knew what you wanted. You wanted to travel, you wanted to see these things, you wanted to do all those things. That's what took you into dancing. Once you accomplished all of that, you're going, okay, next. And then you were very clear on what you wanted, and you committed totally.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a cycle of, for me, every about 5 years, I sort of like reinvent myself, and it's, oh, that's what we're doing now. And I've done, definitely looking back, I think there's like this 5-year cycle for me of, you know, okay, I've given that a good shot. I've done what I wanted to do. Let's pivot ever so slightly, not cut off and do something completely different, just pivot and go in that direction. And it's almost a little bit, yeah, like reinventing.
Yeah,
you know, you've
and
got to keep it fresh.
Yes. And, you know, I'm just thinking that, you know, everyone talks about pivot now in business, and it's like a 180. But when you think about it in dance, it's about keeping the momentum into a new direction, right?
That's so true. Yeah, it's like pirouettes, we call it, you know, going round and round and round. And it's like that. Yeah, it's the same concept, actually. You know, you're keeping the momentum going. Exactly that. It's I call it, you might have heard of the expression big mo. I think it was Darren Chandler that, it's his book about the slight edge.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Hardy, I think. And that expression big mo was really stuck with me. Like you when you feel big mo coming, you gotta like grab big mo, as he calls it, run with it, and it's about trying to harness it and then generate your own big mo, your momentum, when you don't have it. And that's a real skill, and it takes real grit to get your momentum going from nothing.
And that you know, I'm just thinking though, as you're speaking to this, that there's a whole different understanding that you would bring to all of this as a dancer, because you physically get what that means in movement.
That's it. Like, physicalizing those exact concepts is what dancing is about. And there's been so many times when I've been at the side of a stage, like in the wing, waiting to go on, and I'm like, I'm not feeling it tonight, or I'm just tired, or my body's really sore, or I'm thinking about what I'm going to make for dinner. I'm just like not in it at all. Like I'm not in it, and I've no desire right now to jump on stage and get thrown around and whiz around. And but I learned through my training and my career that like how to generate, literally like the physics of it, how to generate momentum from nothing, when you don't want to, but you have to.
Well, you have to go on.
Yeah, the show must go on, even though right now it's a bit, I don't know if the show's going to go on right now. With everything going on. But it's just that whole training. You just trained yourself to like, you're on, and momentum, physically, you have to have momentum to push through and move yourself through the space, because that's the job,
Yeah.
So physicalizing those concepts has been what I've had to do. And I guess that informs, now when I'm not per se at the side of a stage, I'm sitting on my laptop now, and I've got I've got to generate the momentum myself. It's the same concept.
Right. And I want to come to that, but before that, just going back to when you were just dancing, the nature of the business can be feast or famine, right? So how did you carry yourself through those times? If you can share an example of one time when things were really dry, how did you keep yourself going? How did you keep yourself moving through those times?
It's there's definitely been a few points where it's been very, very tough. And I think right now is a very good example of what has happened, not to me personally, but to everyone in particularly the theatre industry and the big entertainment industry. I mean, right now is the best example, to be honest. But in the past, when I was a bit younger, maybe like sort of less experiences of these famine times, shall we call it, or bust times. I'm just a hustler. Like I just do what you have to do. So I'd always try and find work related to the industry in some way, whether it was teaching or offering sort of tuition, or doing the thing where I would bring other performers in and take commission. So I've acted as an agent quite a lot of the times. I've just been very resourceful without having to go, right, well, I'm going to go work as a waitress now because I'm in between jobs. I've just decided I'm not doing that. So I've looked at any other option to generate income using my skills in the industry. So I just made that decision, really, that I don't want to, that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Someone else could do that, absolutely. But I was just determined to make my living from my skills and my job. And there are those feast or famine times. And the famine times, it's been a matter of, let's just create, I almost just create opportunity. I'm just creating jobs, like
intentionally,
because it's about being a bit resourceful at that time. So another thing I've had to learn to do.
Well, that's something that's pretty distinct from you, because I know a lot of other actors and dancers that they say, okay, you get the jobs that get you by, but I love that you've said, no, I'm going to get something that's somehow linked to this, and find it and make it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's brought it's taken me in lots of interesting directions, but ultimately, I just know that I've stayed in my lane in a way. I've stayed in the lane. And I also, it's all things that I enjoy. I enjoy creating opportunities. I enjoy coming up with ideas. I enjoy all of that. So it's all linked in. If you enjoy it, you're going to put a bit more effort into it as well, aren't you? Yeah. So
well, it's another channel of creativity that most people don't realize. It really does require creativity to create those sort of opportunities too.
Yeah, thinking outside the box is like a day-to-day thing from my existence.
Okay. And so now you're really applying that now, because as you said, now theater, it's sort of like the speaking business for me, just poof, it disappeared overnight. And same thing with theater, it's gone, right? And don't know when it's coming back. So you've had to adapt to that, to where you can't be a dancer, you can't be a choreographer. Can you share a little bit about your thought process in terms of how you move forward here?
Yeah, I had always had this idea that I wanted to, because I was noticing when I would go and choreograph in projects, or if I was working for an institution and choreographing their show, that like these kids that were gonna, you know, graduate within months of me being there doing their final year show or any job that I was on, I just noticed how much of a disservice they were doing themselves. And I noticed it a completely wide across the industry. There's a few key players in the industry that I know of that have harnessed this idea of marketing, branding, leveraging on what they've got already, you know, harnessing these things and branding and all that. There's a few people that have got that, but I would say 99% of people have no idea about how to run themselves as a business, you know, and it's called business. It's called showbiz. It's got business in the title. So it is a business, you know, and we get so caught up in, and it's also about institutions and how they teach people. It's very old school. It's very like earn your stripes and, you know, putting you down before you to build you up. And it's very, in some senses, it's a bit toxic.
Yeah.
Actually, oh, I've lost you again.
No, I'm here.
Back. I lost you for a second.
You're frozen a little bit, but there, you're back. You're back.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. So I wanted to sort of share the understandings that I had of how to run your business, how to get showbiz savvy. I was kind of, that's my buzzwords at the moment. Get yourself showbiz savvy, run yourself as a business, utilize and harness all of these things such as your USP, your social signaling, your branding, your marketing, where you benchmarking yourself, your mental resilience. So these are sort of like the key topics that I was like, people need to learn this. This is like stuff that will just propel them forward. And if I had someone guiding me in that way 15 years ago, you know, I wonder where I'd be right now. I've reached a really high point in my career, but I could be even farther because these techniques are like foolproof. And so I decided to set, finally, you know, I had the time with COVID happened, everything, 48 hours, everything was gone, like everything, and no government support. I fell through the gap of any help from the government. So I was like, right, well, I have nothing left to lose. I'm going to, again, pivot. I'm going to be resourceful. I'm going to generate and create an opportunity. So I set up, the Showbiz Clinic and ran that for 8 weeks as Zoom calls, actually. And I didn't know if it would be interesting to people. I know that it's useful information, but I didn't know if other people were ready to hear it. And actually, I think it's probably at the perfect time for people to sort of step back from being inside a studio and being physical, whether that's singing or acting or dancing. And that's where all the emphasis is. And actually to go, well, we can't do that right now. And then they started to hear what I wanted to say about running yourself as a business and how it's just as important as doing, you know, the kicks and the singing and all that. It's just as important. And so week after week, my audience was building and building and building. And before I knew it, I had like 65 people from all over the world, you know, from Canada, New York, LA, Sweden, Barcelona, all up and down the UK, Germany, just tuning in, getting each week a different topic of business, basically how to run themselves as a business. And then I launched the membership from that, deciding to take these people on a bit of a longer journey, out of, you know, because the next thing for people in my industry is going to be, okay, well, we've been locked up now for however long. What happened? What's it like to be in a studio again in front of an audition when you're being auditioned? When you're auditioning, and so that's going to be the next process I think I'm going to have to look at with them, and how to help them transition back into the industry, having learned all the business skills, you know, and utilizing that and getting that mental resilience for them up and running. So launched it, and it was taken had a nice warm audience, shall we say, but it just the timing of it worked out quite, well, shall we say,
Yeah.
considering.
Well, it's interesting you say that a lot of a lot of actors, a lot of dancers are thinking about their craft, but not then as a business. But really, that is true of so many entrepreneurs. They start the business because they love doing whatever they're doing, but they don't think about the business side.
That's it.
And you have to have both those hats on there.
You do, and they're just as equally as important. You can't really have one without the other, or you can, but it's not going to have longevity.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing that I want people to, for as long as they want to be in the industry, to have a 15+ year career. And to do that, you need to have some, to get skin in the game. You have to understand that this is a business, and you have to really run yourself as a business. Otherwise, your talent in the craft will only get you so far. But to really, get past that 5-year mark, that 7-year mark, the 10-year mark in that industry is, not a lot of people last that long.
Right. Now, you said, you wish this had been there when you were 18 or 20. Let's say 18-year-old Xena is sitting right there next to you. What would you tell her right now?
Oof, I would tell her to, get on. I would probably tell her to stick with the choreography from that age, because I knew that's what I actually wanted to do. Instead, I listened to other people's advice saying, "Oh, you're young, you should perform whilst you can." But actually, I'm much more comfortable as a choreographer in the creative role. So I'd probably tell her to, you're going to come across that, stick with it and run with it. And I'm trying to instill into people that are in my industry to pay themselves first. So to put 10% away of whatever they earn, even if it's between whatever it is, does not matter. The amount is not the important thing, is the fact that you put 10% away. And not, only touch it when you really need to, something like a global pandemic or something, when you just
who knows what might happen.
Some money that you've just stacked away for that specific occasion. I would tell her, pay yourself first from your very first job, and to sort of harness your USPs more, because I think I was understanding like the networking and understood the branding, but I didn't understand what my personal USPs were as my business. And I would definitely tell her to be paying herself first.
So what was your USP? How do you stand out as a dancer and a choreographer that something nobody else offers?
Well, I actually do this exercise with my members, and I say it's not really about any one thing. It's about the combination of things that's always going to be unique.
Yeah.
So one of my USPs I will always use is that I'm Scottish. I go to America and I just play that Scottish card because I know it's interesting to people, and it starts a conversation, and then boom, I'm in. I can get across what I want to get across, or we can communicate in a way, and before you know it, before that's exactly how I suddenly got, not suddenly, but how I ended up getting my New York agent was because I had a conversation the conversation was sparked by the fact that I was, using my Scottishness, and then it unfolded that I ended up, getting my New York agent. It's not quite as simple as that, but but what I understand is that that's one of my things. It's not the only thing. There's many other Scottish women out there, but the combination of what that is with everything else is what I believe sets me apart. So being Scottish, I'm very, I haven't really gone into this, but I was a break dancer for about 5 years.
Really?
Traveled the world, competed, learned from the best, and was obsessed with the whole breakdancing culture. And so when I choreograph now, or when I performed, that was my little wild card that I would just throw on the table when it's needed. So that's another sort of USP that I use. So, we've got the breakdance, you've got the fact that I'm female, you've got the fact that I'm Scottish, you've got the fact that, I can run a business. I put me on the spot now. I'm like, I need to know what my USPs are. But, those three things alone, it's the combination of them, and plus other things that I can sort of pull on, that I believe are what make you stand out. And I think you should have about 3 to 5 that you're like, you like really embody them, and you use a bit more of one than the other at another time. And I think it's about being smart, like be smart and know and see the opportunities to utilize on your own USPs.
Yeah. So you, the other thing I'm hearing in this is that you've always had some sort of a vision of where you're heading, right? So the dance pulled you, you saw what you wanted of that. You knew you wanted to do choreography. You had this idea of doing the membership and the teaching some time ago, but this happened. So you're just moving forward with that. But what are the glimmers of thoughts of what's next, even beyond that? Are there thoughts that you've got of what might be the next stage for Xena?
It's an interesting time for you to ask me that, because with everything that's going on, I've really had to, think about this a lot. It's not an easy time for my industry, and for millions of people that are in it have no idea, and having that lack of direction for many people that I've spoken to and myself is difficult. And I actually, up until maybe just a couple of days ago, I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on my membership because I have to, and I've got all these lovely members and I want to help them and I've got a lot to give to them. But for myself, my own sort of creativity, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm honest about it, I've been very lost in the sense of there's no industry. I love live theatre and I love being in an auditorium and the tech rehearsal and have my god mic and tell people to go there and fixing problems and talking to the lighting designer. And I'm like, none of that will exist at least for another year. Spring 2021 we're looking at. So I've really, had to swallow that pill and think, right, what's next? With regards to the membership, it's already international, but I would like to have it, to grow that membership and reach so many more people and have that as an income. If I look at it purely as a business sense, an income that can weather any storm for me. And to sort of reach, I've already got members around the world, but just to really push that even more. And secondly, for myself as a sort of creative practitioner, I want to go into directing. Probably on film or TV, like TV commercials or like TV shows. I think directing's been something I've been quite interested in. And because the theatres aren't coming back, but film and TV is slowly coming back before theatre, my sort of plan is, well, I wanted to do that. Now is a time to at least get some experience in that direction and go down the directing route, since theatre's not coming back for a while. So I'm not closing the door to it, but I do think that film and TV and going down the direction route is probably where I'll go next.
And I think that would, you talk about USP, that would give you a unique approach to directing, because the choreographing would be a huge, it give you a lens into directing that most directors wouldn't have about movement and such.
Yeah, they often say that a choreographer can move into directing, but a director can never move into choreography. So and it's because you have this whole other realm of understanding, and so many times directors will bring in choreographers or movement directors, and the communicate. This is the biggest thing: is the communication between the director and the choreographer. The director just will say, just make it bigger. So then the choreographer has to go, right, okay, head, so I'll just go and make it bigger. And then you make it bigger, and then they say, well, could you just make it like, sort of like more to the left? And you're like, so, and it's the communication. And as a choreographer, you have to get inside the director's head. So I think, it would be really nice just to like be inside my own head, direct what I want to direct, and do the movement without having to, and be, or if I worked with a choreographer, to be able to actually communicate to them what it is.
Yeah,
that I'm
because
actually for.
most directors don't have the language.
No, and they'd actually get a bit. They don't need to, you know. They believe that they don't need to, and I'd like to change that, you know. And I'd also like to see more female. You know, you can probably tell I'm quite, you know, direct. Let's go, let's go, let's go. But you know, I'd like to change the landscape in the sense, or be part of that changing of the landscape. So that,
It's due.
yeah, it is due, and it's time, and it is slowly happening. But you know, I go into a production meeting, and I'm still one of two females at this huge table of all the heads of the creatives. It's very interesting to watch, and I'd like to see that. I'd like to be part of that change, you know.
That's cool. And Ken saying that you're on the right path to directing, because it's,
Yeah.
I'm hearing all of that. Like, and that's why I asked the question, because, you know, you're not just spontaneous. You have a sense of those next steps. I've picked that up just in this conversation. And so I figured there was another stage emerging.
Yeah, and I think it's emerged a lot quicker than I was anticipating because of what's going on.
Right.
And it's sort of forced me to think, you know, okay, be smart about this. What can you do? What is next? And
Right.
I probably wouldn't have thought about that realistically for another year or two, you know.
Well, I think for a lot of people, this time is a kick in the butt to say, move.
Yeah, it really is. Move in the direction you want to. But I think, you know, I'm involved in Bat Out. I don't know, are you a Meatloaf fan? Do you like Meatloaf? So have you heard of the musical Bat Out of Hell, the musical?
Well, hello. Yeah.
So
the musical. Yeah, I have heard of that, but yeah.
Yeah, so we were at New York last year, and actually I was 3 days away from flying back to New York to put the show up to do its US tour. And 3 days before, they said, it's all cancelled.
So you were the choreographer for that?
Choreographer
Wow.
for that, yeah.
Nice.
And we were in rehearsals in London, getting ready to do the US tour. Then it was come back and do the UK tour, which was supposed to start last week here in the UK. And yeah, 3 days. And they said, nope, everything's done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yes.
That was quite crazy.
Yeah. Well, you know what it should do too is I'll get from you offline some of the, if you've got links to some of your choreography, we'll stick them into the comments so that people can,
absolutely,
on YouTube and such. But if people are wanting to track you down, how do they find you?
Well, if they're interested in the membership, there's the membership's called, it's just www.theshowbizclinic.com.
Okay.
And if anyone wants to find myself on the web, on the interweb, it's just Xena, Xena, and Gusthart, Xena J Gusthart, GUSTHART.com.
Okay, and that's the showbizclinic.com for the...
Yeah, and then mine's is xenajgusthart.com, and all the socials as well. Xena Gusthart. There's literally only, actually with Gusthart on Facebook, there is only 6 Gustharts on Facebook, and there are 5 of them are all my family, and 1 person is in New Zealand, and there's no immediate connection, but there's no other Gusthart. So if you put that name in, with that with my first name, it'll come up for sure.
Sounds like you're going to need a trip to New Zealand when all this clears up, though.
I think so, right? I feel like, and New Zealand's fine. They're doing great over there. So maybe I should just go over there for a little adventure and do some digging into the name of Gusthart.
Well, Xena, I want to thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate this. This has been an absolute joy.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really nice to chat to you and connect, and hopefully help anyone that might be in a similar position.
Absolutely. That's I love discovering all these entrepreneurial journeys. And for the business owners who are watching, just to let you know, tomorrow is the one day in June I'm not doing a Passion of Entrepreneurship, and that's because we are having an online conference for business owners, CEOs, called Leadership RX, about how do you lead and support yourself and your team through this craziness. And you can find out more at this site. It's not a Zoom conference, not a go-to meeting. It's completely different. It's really close to being an in-person meeting. So just go to leadershiprx.com, join us. It is going to be a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of cool information. We've got a great lineup for you. And then we will be back Thursday with the passion of entrepreneurship. So thank you again, Xena, so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and I'll speak to you very soon.
Yep. And we will see you all hopefully tomorrow at Leadership RX, and then Thursday at the Passion of Entrepreneurship.